Like a fat guy putting on shorts, you split your sides at Thursday Thoughts. Welcome back for another exciting edition of Thursday Thoughts with Eddie Anchor. I'm your host, Eddie Anchor. We're going to get stuck straight into it this week. It's going to be a huge week of fantasy football in the Thunderdome. Let's go. Bunga versus the Commish. The Wiz will take on the Commish this week in what many are tipping to be the death knell for the Commissioner's season. Slipping to 1-3, last year's juggernaut could be off the rails before the engine even gets warm. Bunga's season is chugging along quite nicely with a solid 3-0 start, and with 21 players to choose from, things could be getting more and more rosy from this week onwards. While fans will be hoping for one more heroic effort from the coach to pull a rabbit out of the hat, the only way that he will win will be if Bunga works his wizard magic and screws his team up again. Can't see it happening. Bunga by 110. Now, Ben versus Steve. If there was an award for the worst scorer in Thunderdome history, last year's champ would certainly be in possession of it. After Ben's huge total of 1,200 last week. 1,200! It's laughable. He will be hoping that superstar Jack Stephen, on his return, can score 300 points on his own, so that he can bring his weekly total up to about 1,500, something marginally respectable. It's a good thing Ben's good at patching walls, because there's more cracks in his team than a National Plumbers Convention. Such a thought. National Plumbers Convention might arouse his opposition. Old Steve-O will feel right at home in a room full of arseholes. Sitting at 1-2, and after getting picked 4 in the draft, it would seem he has blown his early draft pick this time, big time. Already well off the pace, a solid mid-table finish seems most likely. He will just scrape over the line in a low-scoring affair. Steve by 64 points. We move on to Tom versus Robbo. After finally chalking up his first win last week, Robbo celebrated by plaiting his mullet into a rat's tail and drinking a bottle of Bundy on a Monday morning. Robbo and his new star player Chris Yarran were seen having drunken words outside of a West Australian nightclub in the early hours on Monday. It is believed the contents of that conversation were directly around speculation that Robbo will be making Chris Yarran his captain this week, as he is clearly the best player in his team. Not really saying much. Meanwhile, Tom was also spotted out the front of a nightclub in the early hours of a Monday morning. He was actually there looking for half-smoked cigarette butts and a warm alcove to sleep in for the night. His box was recently destroyed when he invited Sean Hampson round for a drink, and the unco prick tripped and squashed it. Despite the lack of quality training facilities, I find it really hard to see Tom getting beaten this week. Tom by 200 points. Hayden versus Tricky. Tricky by 200. Sorry. When I saw Hayden's name there, I just had the urge to go off early. You know, call the result before it happens. You know, you're almost within 100 of that world record there, Haydos. You should be proud of your efforts. You went off a little bit early, though, calling it that you had it covered, though. Hey, mathematics is really good there, buddy. This is a week that Tricky Mickey starts his ascent on the ladder. He has built what I would consider to be the equal of any side in the competition. Just a bit of luck from injury gods, and he will be a genuine shot of winning it this year. And it needs to start this week by crushing a very sporadic opposition. After the peak of last week, it is just a given that Hayden will have a big flop this week. Tricky by 130. We move on to Andy versus Matt. Both of these two teams are locked up at 2 wins apiece after 3 rounds. This becomes an extremely important match in the overall scheme of the season. The winner will distance himself from the rest of the rabble. Both of these teams were well below average last week, which indicates a bit of a false dawn. They might be up the top at the moment, but they could find themselves on the way down pretty quick. The advantage Matt has is that he will actually be coaching his team this week, whereas Andy will be busy swanning around in Sydney, stocking up on canvas shoes and hemp woven organic scarves for him to get around in. Both of these two teams have got a very healthy list to choose from, with not a lot of injury concerns for this clash. I think the big fella Matt might just pick his team up on his shoulders and carry him over the line by 23 points. Final match of the round. Chris versus Callum. Ho, are we excited for this? Here are two blokes who will have some seriously dirty hands on the weekend as they attempt to dig themselves out of a couple of the deepest holes you have ever seen. Callum seriously needs to win this week because I've pretty much run dry on jokes at his expense of being shit. His team is that bad, he's actually got the Melbourne Football Club as his major sponsor. Chris is currently the only team to have scored less points than him, so this could possibly be his opportunity to notch one up on the board. It was rumoured earlier this week that if Callum's team loses this week, he could see about an early season sacking of the coach, which would be unprecedented in the Thunderdome history. Trying to pick a winner here is like trying to pick the best player from Carlton last week. You're just picking the best of a really, really bad bunch. I'm going to go with Callum. Purely because it's too late in the season to find a 12th coach to replace him in the league. He's proven many times he is capable of cracking the sads and walking out halfway through games. Wouldn't be the first time. Callum by 3 points in an epic. Now, while I was struggling to pick a winner of that one, we're going to head over to EAS Sportsbet to hear the latest sports odds from Joey Punter.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. If you're looking to have a splash in the overall market odds, EAS has got you covered. This season's market is shaping it as an absolute belter. In at $2 for every favourite is Tom on the back of 3 consecutive wins at the start of a year. The interesting market mover has been Mickey, who has significantly had his odds shortened on the back of last week's win. He's into $5. Now, if you're looking for some odds on Callum, we cannot actually provide you with any actual numbers, because as you can see, the display only goes up to 7 digits. For those who like the exotic markets, we have this little beauty. How many goals will Eddie Betts kick this week? At the bottom we have 3 goals at $15, 2 goals at $9, 1 goal at $4, and for those favourite backers out there, at $2 we have not only will he not kick a goal this week, but he'll be stacking shelves at Coles on Monday. That's all we have time for at EAS Sportsbet. Head to easportsbet.com.au. Make sure you enjoy your weekend and gamble responsibly.
Thank you very much for that, Joey. It's always great to gauge where the market is at and to have a little flutter on the footy. Now, a sheet has just come across my desk. We have to cross live to the press room at Anchor Studios, where the Commissioner of the League has called an emergency press conference. Thank you all for making your way into the league headquarters at such short notice. I know traffic near Macca's can get quite chaotic on a Thursday when the dole payments go in. The reason I've called this press conference is to resign as CEO of Anchor Studios. After last week's defeat to a team that was recently rated the 11th most humorous joke at the International Comedy Awards, I've had to take stock and realise I was getting ahead of myself. I've been working too much in the studios and paying no attention to the team. It came to a head last week when, regretfully, Liam Shields was left to captain the side, which was not only unfair on him, but a slap in the face to many of our loyal supporters. And this is very good vino. Despite failing to name a full team of players, the 17 on the field battled gallantly. But even the best of soldiers are sitting ducks without a powerful general to guide them. I, unfortunately, was busy picking out curtain swatches for my new office
Despite claims that I was in a drunken stupor in my office with 3 casks of red wine. Either way, in light of these recent events, I have decided it is in the best interests of my team if I step down from my position as CEO of Anchor Studios. It will allow me more time to concentrate on dragging this sorry team up the ladder. Eddie will continue to keep things ticking along until a suitable replacement can be found to step in and carry Anchor Studios into the future. Thank you.
Well, that was a very interesting press conference by the commish. Looks a little under the weather. I mean, Liam Shields is captain and only 17 players. One might argue the moves of a drunken idiot. Only time will tell, I guess. It's sad to hear that he's leaving Anchor Studios, but fucking pay rise to Eddie, son! Yeah, boy! Alright, now, let's move on to Eddie Anger. Let's get straight into Eddie Anchor. So I opened the paper yesterday and read that James Frawley, a player you would consider to be a fairly good fullback, has had a price put on his head of $800,000 if he wants to go to another club. You can't really blame him for trying, can you? He must look at the illustrious company he would be keeping on that sort of coin and think, why not me? I mean, for this season, $800,000 would see him $200,000 short of what his former teammate Tom Scully is making. At Tom Scully's current rate of $1 million a season, he's raking in a cool $2,500 per disposal at this rate. Not bad going. That's more than most of us make in bloody 2 weeks. Now, we duck around the corner and we find another player who's on $1 million a year, who is yet to even kick the dew off the grass this season. Kurt Tippett. So far, he's just loving life up there on a cool $7,000 per disposal since he screwed the Crows to the wall. And lastly, and most disappointingly, Mitch Clark. Big money, big promise, big flop. That's all I'm going to say on that one. The one thing all of these players have in common is they walked out on their original club while they were at the peak of their powers, without even repaying any of the faith shown to them on draft day. There is no more cruel mistress in the football world than the Karma Bus, or the Karma Tram, if you're Graham Pollock, who left Freo to go to the Tigers on big money. No one in their right mind is going to pay $800,000 for a fullback, ever, except for maybe the Crows. They forked out $500,000 a season for Eddie Betts, who was the only player to ever have the Crows fans asking, can we get Richard Tambling back? Any chance of getting Tambling back? Piss off, Eddie! Now, lastly, on a slightly less serious note, Arnott's. You're thinking, Arnott's? This is a footy show. What the fuck is going on with your Delta Cream biscuits? Every day, I sit down with my coffee and dunk a few Delta Creams. Last week, I buy a packet and they're all bloody defective. This is outsourcing gone nuts. To save a buck, they've got the place that makes chopsticks making their bloody biscuits. Look at them. They keep coming apart. Look, all I need is a little sashimi and a bowl of hot and sour sauce, and I'll be in business. I can use these things to pick my food up. I don't quite get what's going on here. Are they trying to infiltrate the Asian market? Or are kids just getting so damn lazy they can't even be bothered pulling their own biscuit apart? Look at it. It's a disgrace. Arnott's, fix your fucking biscuits. And that was another instalment of Eddie Anger. Now, we move on to the free agent of the week. Now, we're going to get motoring along here. This episode's dragging out. Talk about unsung heroes this year. Here is a bloke who has scored through the roof 3 rounds in a row, and behind his captain has been one of the driving forces behind St Kilda's positive start to the season. I'm of course talking about Farron Ray. Often maligned as unable to win his own ball, he's always been an exceptional user once it's been put in his hands. With dwindling numbers in the senior player department down at St Kilda, he appears to have taken some actual responsibility down there for the direction of his club, and his numbers are starting to reflect that. Capable of the odd exceptional game where he could score in excess of 150, his consistent high level over this season so far makes him the obvious choice for free agent of the week. Now, against the Crows, there will certainly be plenty of easy ball to be won. Farron Ray, get on him. Now, just a quick one from last week. There were no emails from the ever-growing audience. Most likely because I actually forgot to include the email address. When I went like this, I didn't put it in editing. So, this week, remember, when you're editing this, Eddie, don't forget to put the email in. Here's the email address. Don't forget. Now, any email you send about the characters, any just general abuse you have to throw my way, or anybody's way, I'll make an effort to read it out no matter how rude or ridiculous it is. Now, that's hijynx@gmail.com. Get onto it. I'd like to make that a weekly segment if I could. Alright, now we finish off with the weekly wanker. This week's winner was certainly no contest. Many blokes over the years have looked like wankers for going off a little earlier than they should have, probably in front of their missus, no doubt. If you're going to dance all over the grave of someone, you'd want to make sure they're actually dead though. Becoming a champion is hard work. You cannot fluke being the best. I'm not going to put on my fucking sand shoes and wander out there and accidentally break the 100-metre world record, am I? No. So, when a certain individual thought he had captured the Thunderdome world record score of 2,063, he got a little ahead of himself, letting fly with comments like, "New league record, motherfuckers! Sit down, Commissioner!" It's hard to blame this fellow from going off early, though. How can he be expected to win with humility when he only wins 4 times a year? Now, we've actually got some video footage of this gentleman. He's actually got previous convictions in this space. We've got a couple of examples of this fellow's bad luck when he tries to go off a little bit early. Here's when he was a jockey.
Moscow Flyer putting in a determined bid from the back. High Flyers finishing strongly. Central House, Boat Island in third. Moscow Flyer. High Fly the far side. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely, Roger Loughlin, and High Fly has come through to win it. What a...
Then, if that disaster wasn't enough, he decided he'd try his hand at cycling. So, for going off once more and claiming to have passed the pinnacle score of 2,063 when you in fact only scored a miserly 1954, Hayden, you are, without a doubt, the most deserved winner this award has ever seen. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in this week. We were up to 40 viewers last week. Let's keep this thing rolling. Have a great week. Like a fat guy putting on shorts, you split your sides at Thursday Thoughts.